All right, let's get into this week's movie. Colin's pick.
Yeah.
2019's Midway. And I say that because this is a remake from 1976 was the OG movie. I did not go back and watch.
It was a banger.
The OG movie?
No.
1976?
No, the new. That new.
Yes.
Dude.
So some of the interesting parts, $100 million budget for the movie.
Dog. I mean, I don't know how you couldn't have it.
Yeah.
Right.
So
Gross worldwide, 127.
Yeah, it's a flop. That's a massive flop.
they only made 27 million
Globally.
Yeah.
Usually it's like domestic, it's like, like half of the whatever.
So
and then
this is box office.
Yeah, though that's just like in the budget, also just production budget. That does not include marketing.
It does not include marketing.
So
Marketing
they for
is usually
sure lost money. On this.
marketing is usually like a third of that.
Yeah.
It's high.
So what about like Netflix? Are they gonna make their money back with put
Honestly,
on Netflix?
don't know how that works, dude.
They make their money by increasing your prices every month.
Yeah.
True.
I would love to
bro,
learn.
like
I'm just
that is
Yeah.
awful.
Yeah,
So-
That is bad.
So as we just talked, 42% critics, 92% audience. Director Roland Emmerich, this dude's got a run, right? And some of it may explain the movie making style in this. That
Tell
I
me.
think me and Dave will
Tell
have the
me,
same
dude.
thought of.
Talk dirty to me.
Independence Day, 1st and 2nd.
Yup.
Day After Tomorrow, Tom
Yup.
Cruise.
Give it to me.
The Patriot.
Yup.
Yes. White House Down.
No.
No?
I haven't seen that
Nah,
one.
I didn't
No.
like that
He
one
had
that
some other
much.
ones, but the other one that stuck out to me that made me laugh, Universal Soldier, 1992, Jean-Claude Van Damme, dude.
Don't know that one.
One of
yet.
his
seen
first
that one.
ones. So,
But he does have some bangers.
but no, he's a blockbuster dude. So stars Woody Harrelson, Dennis Quaid, Mandy Moore's in it. And then I didn't know until the first time I watched it when they come out. I'm like, that Nick Jonas?
Yeah, Nick Jonas.
Yeah, dude.
What's Jonas doing in
was
here,
that
man?
was that his debut?
No, he's been in other
he's
things.
been in
He's been
act-
in
yeah.
he's been in TV shows. He's been on Broadway.
Yeah.
He's been in things like
I'd
that.
say
Maybe
maybe-
big movies.
The
maybe.
big
Maybe
screen.
the-
I'm talking about
I'm
the
not
big
sure.
screen.
Yeah, I'm
Maybe
not
the
sure.
first big screen appearance. But yeah, he's got a couple of shows that are pretty good.
Bro, his character was a badass.
Bruno.
Yep. Hey, I'm glad you brought that up because that scene really did happen.
Yeah.
That was a true scene from the
Sure,
movie.
dude. The whole movie is true.
Most of it.
Most
a
of
lot of time they hype it up, but that's
Yeah.
that
Hollywood,
specific scene between a ton of accounts from everything. He jumps in, the plane hits it, the thing spiraled off, almost fell off the deck. 100% accurate.
Oh, that scene. I was thinking about the scene where he
Oh,
gets thrown in the ocean with an anchor.
that part?
That's probably not true.
I feel like
Yeah.
I feel like that's also true.
That would,
Yeah.
I mean, I looked it up. I couldn't find exactly. They were captured for sure, and they did actually give them information, but it was fake information. You know how he didn't say, he said "F you," my friends are at Pearl. He didn't, obviously they have no idea what he
Yeah.
said, but they actually gave them fake information. And if they're going to execute him, they're going to shoot him or just push him overboard. They're not going to waste. Why would they waste?
I literally
you know
thought
what I mean? That's like the biggest waste
I
ever.
thought that, like, dude, I was like, that's like $100,000, dude. That you just
Yeah,
threw
why
overboard.
would you do that?
yeah.
At the same time, dude, with your other boys shaking his boots,
Yeah.
True.
that might be worth it.
So it starts in Japan, right before the war, and Leighton is with Yamamoto in Japan.
Yamamoto.
And they're like, I don't know if they're friends, but they're definitely like cordial enough.
They're not
with
friends.
each other.
They're not friends.
Well, but they have
But they respect
they have a relationship.
the position.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But they're on speaking terms.
They've been with each other for a while.
Exactly. Yeah. They're like colleagues at least.
Adversaries?
Acquaintances. I don't think
No, not adversaries. They're
At that
friends.
point, I
They're
don't
more
think-
friendly
Okay.
than that.
Yeah, I think they're more
Okay.
friendly.
I wouldn't call them friends, but they
fake-
are like
They fake drink whiskey together.
they respect each other's opinion.
yeah.
for sure.
Clearly,
Yeah.
opening scene.
So that's interesting. And then it goes to Pearl Harbor, right? December 7th, 1941.
Have you guys ever been to Pearl Harbor?
Never.
No, I've never been.
I want to
to
go so bad.
Yeah.
I want to go so bad.
So old Bjorn Ironside hanging out on the
My
deck,
boy Bjorn
talking
Ironside.
to some random recruit or low level guy
Yeah.
when the bombs start dropping
Yeah,
from the surprise attack at Pearl Harbor.
and then
It's just the battle's over.
all right,
really,
all right.
it's not.
I was gonna say, Dave, I want to cut through the chase. Like we watched the movie, we get where we're going. You have done a lot of back research into this. I want you to tell me about the legitimate battle. Like everything leading up to it, the whole hour and 20 minutes leading up to the battle, and here's why, and this and
Yeah.
that. I love all that.
Yeah.
I think it's a great movie. It's all working for us.
Mm-hmm.
Please tell us about the Battle of Midway. Like fast forward us to the Battle of Midway.
Okay.
We're here now. It's go time. Tell us about the movie and then what you know.
So,
Sounds like Dave's in an interview right now.
Yeah.
with you.
I
So-
am.
Tell me
I'm
about your
interviewing you.
past experience, Dave.
So, you can't start at the very beginning, right? You can't start at the Battle of Midway because an extremely important part that they talk about in the movie as well is the breaking of the code. Extremely
Yeah,
important part of. I mean, really, that's the whole thing.
Which
right?
was a bunch of tuba players.
Yeah.
They were a band member. Yeah, exactly. That's 100% correct. I will say that Rochefort, I think his name was, the guy that was kind of eccentric, had like the robe on.
Yeah.
He was the guy. Like he was I feel like the movie definitely underplays.
It downplays
It underplays his
role.
involvement.
In the search of the history books, he's a big dog.
Oh my gosh! Like Leighton is a real person, but he was more of a liaison between
Yes.
Station Hypo, which is the name of that group, that secret group, and like the brass, like
But
Washington.
that's like how life works, though.
True. But what I'm saying is like, I feel like Leighton was a huge character, and he was like a footnote, and like without him, he was integral to our getting that information.
Yeah.
Right. And the really interesting story.
Yeah, he didn't give his due justice until like literally at the end of the movie, where they like pause the frame and they tell you all of his accolades.
Yeah, because he talks to like Woody Harrelson's character, which is Nimitz, obviously another real person, is like, you want a tour, and he kind of goes over it, and I feel like that's it. That's it for his. I mean,
yeah, they shows expressions and stuff here.
Yeah.
And there. But I think anything I researched, they gave him his flowers. I don't think in the movie they gave him.
Who's
no,
they?
in real
Who's
life,
they?
in real life for sure. I'm saying the movie,
Real life.
makes him a small character that he was much more
historical accounts, any of the
his rank.
yeah.
All
But
that
Dave's
stuff.
more. Yeah, they definitely made the other dude seem like he's
Okay.
this
more important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that was also a true story.
100%. So
He was like, I tried and you didn't listen. So
he cracked the code. Rochefort cracked the code, and told him that, right? Because the Japanese kept saying that they're planning an attack on AF. It was something they were calling AF.
oh no, so we're skipping over Pearl Harbor.
I mean, Pearl Harbor. I mean, this is yeah. I am skipping over that.
Okay,
This is more about Midway.
I just want to make sure. I'm here for the Midway.
Yeah,
But
because Pearl Harbor was just like the catalyst. Like we're a sleeping giant, right? We've awoken a sleeping giant. We like entered the war officially.
yes,
But like, so the Japanese said they were going to attack AF. We didn't know what that was.
I love the simplicity of the actual code breaking in that though, where they're just like, "Hey, we're out of water over here on Midway," and they're like, "Hey, AF has some water issues or whatever."
Exactly. So
they baited him into it.
Station Hypo thought AF was Midway. They told that to the brass. They said, "Nah, maybe you may be right, but I need more proof. I need more proof. I need more to be more sure that is in fact Midway." So that's exactly what you're talking about. They told Midway to send an unencrypted message that they were out of water. Unencrypted message. Just send it out that they're out of water.
Right.
The Japanese intercepted that because, of course, they did. That's what everybody's doing. We intercepted a message from the Japanese saying that AF is out of water. And that was enough. That was the proof that Washington needed,
Yeah.
that this is for sure Midway, and that changed the entire battle.
You want to know my thoughts were watching this movie in any World War II movie, anytime they're talking about code breaking, all this stuff. The thought process and the decision making that you have to make, where here's a simple, I'm going to send this code out and I'm going to make sure that you actually get it. You don't have to encrypt it.
you have to get it, and then I will encrypt what you said back.
And then the other person on the other end of that being like, "Hey, dude, we just caught something pretty good here." But Ben being like, "Wait, did they want us to see that, or did they not want us to see that?"
If they're good, they're like, hold on.
Dude,
That was too
this
easy.
the mental, and because you see it in the, not to get too far ahead, but you see it in the Admiral of Japan and the U.S. Admirals of the fleet, where they're making those same choices in real time as stuff's getting bombed. They're like, "Wait, if they're moving here, we got to move here," and they're making split-second decisions. But that's the point of having like good leaders and smart people and intelligent people taking in the information and then making decisions off of it.
And they're like, oh my God, they get it within very, very close of the date, the time. They get it really close. So because of that, we stationed our carriers north of Midway. They're coming from the west towards Midway. So they're coming this way. We're up here. Midway's here. Yeah.
Midway is important because it's a good refueling station, correct?
Yeah, I mean, it's just one of our places. I mean, it's not really important necessarily. The strategic part is not important. The reason that Japan wanted to attack it is because
We were there.
Because in Pearl Harbor, they did not do what they wanted to do. They did take out battleships and cruisers. However, by the stroke of luck, or in my opinion, I really do believe this, divine intervention, all 3 of our aircraft carriers were not in Pearl Harbor when it was destroyed.
Yeah.
Which is just complete, like, I mean, how?
Yeah.
And that was their main target.
And we'll get to that later.
That
was their main
divine
target.
intervention.
That was their main target, and our fuel sources in there.
They missed
would've-
all that stuff.
If they would have hit that and those aircraft carriers, they would have set us back an entire year, which means Japan would have had free range of the Pacific for a year.
Exactly.
So that would have been bad.
Yes.
And Midway, it's like on land, right? It's like you're
It's in a
chipping,
toll. It's a
you're
small-
chipping back. They take Midway because they talk about the possible outcomes if
Mm-hmm.
we lost all these things. But yeah,
So I'm not sure why it's strategically important, but the reason that Japan attacked it was not at all to take over it. That
They
was the
wanted
point.
the aircraft carriers.
100%. They wanted to attack it, draw our aircraft carriers out of Pearl Harbor, and destroy them. That was the only goal.
Yeah.
Like I mean, taking obviously was that'd be good, but that wasn't the main focus.
So how do they decide why there? Do you know that or no?
That was the closest one. I believe it was the closest one to Pearl Harbor, which is where our aircraft carriers were. Right. If you look at the map, Midway is pretty close to Pearl Harbor.
So they're saying like if
in the
you're gonna
grand scheme of
hide,
things.
you're gonna be in the Midway. Not like if you're gonna leave Pearl Harbor, you're gonna dock up in Midway, basically.
Well, no. Their plan was to attack it, right, and take it, and then that would make us take it back with the carriers.
And then now we
Which-
know where you're coming
which
from.
takes us
XYZ.
further
Okay.
from Pearl Harbor,
Yes,
which we
yes,
have resources,
yes.
supplies, all this
All
stuff.
right. I'm with you now.
But here's one of my hangups with the
Didn't
movie.
know that the entire time. I'm like, why the
Well,
Midway?
Hey, I'm with you, and I'll say this: one of my hangups.
Thank you guys.
One of my hangups with the movie in general is I had a hard time following. Like, I wish they would have shown more visually, like what was going on.
Maps.
And I know that maybe would have taken away from like the artistic,
Like the war games, but zoom out.
Yeah, I wanted to see like, okay, we're here, and then here's our fleet, and then here's the air troops, and here's this, and it's like, dude, I'm trying to visualize this in my head. What's
Yes.
going on here? For me, like wanting to know like exactly what's going on,
Exactly.
that would have helped out so much because I'm like,
I don't
are they 100 feet away? Are they 4 miles
so many
away?
things to say, but I just don't know when to say it.
So 100% that I would have never ever have gotten the actual what's going on from the movie itself.
Yeah.
It just wasn't. They did not do a good enough job of explaining the actual.
Well, you knew there was like a
goings-
battle coming.
100%.
And you
but-
knew it. You know, like this is an important battle, but you don't know why.
The
don't know
moments
why.
I was looking for
Yes.
them to tell me like where people were and stuff, they zoom in on like a chart on like the Japanese
will
desk.
say-
It just looks like a geometry test.
Dude,
it's like
that's-
that doesn't show me anything.
Dude, that's where you guys
There's
are
the
way better
X-axis.
than me because like they're showing me stuff. I'm like, hell yeah, America, we're gonna do it. Oh, this is important. We're gonna do it.
We're gonna
get
I'm like all up on like Dick Best. I'm like, let's do this.
Yes.
Like, do I know what are we going on? No one knows. But
No.
So I'm glad I have you guys to tell me why. It's
Hey, you would have been a Dick Best though. You'd just been like,
Bro,
hey,
time
throw me
out.
in the plane.
Time out real quick. Dick Best. Best all-time name. Because military, they go last name first name last. Best Dick. Mm-hmm. You know every time he was like, mm-hmm.
So Collins
Only
three,
the ladies call me that.
Collins three takeaways. AF, Best Dick, and America.
And
What else is there?
Charlize Theron.
What else is there?
All right, go ahead.
So,
Continue
we
on.
have three carriers. We have the Yorktown, we have the Enterprise, and the Hornet.
North.
They have their 4 carriers,
Name them.
right? And it's the Akagi,
Ooh.
the Kaga, the Soru, and the Hiru.
Ooh. Why didn't you have?
Hello.
Why didn't you have the?
Akari.
Why didn't you have the pronunciation on the first two?
I don't know, because those are more easier to say in English. The other two like don't really fit.
Wasabi.
Hey, I challenge you.
Wasabi.
You rose, dude.
And
I appreciate
the
that.
task force was called the Kido Butai. That was the whole task force, all 4 of them, right? So they're coming in.
like the unit was
The unit, like that task
Dude,
force
I
was called.
can't- dude, I can't. There's so much stuff to talk about. I can't wait, brother. I can't wait.
Okay.
Come on,
All
come
right,
on with it.
Let's get into it.
Let's go.
So they're coming, right? So there is a lot of things. Again, like people will call it luck. I'll call it again. Like I really do believe that there's I'm a religious person. I think there's some things that happen in this battle
Yes.
that cannot be explained by just queer.
Tell us
by
why.
chance.
Tell us why.
So they come in first. They come in and they do an air raid on.
Wait. They come in because they saw, like in the movie, like they saw a plane, like we had to attack.
No, they came first, right?
Why? Because they want to.
They're gonna bomb Midway.
They want like that's just that. Who cares? We're coming.
Well, they don't again at this point. They don't know we're there. So this is their plan. They're
gonna bomb it so they can draw us out, but we know they're coming, so we're just waiting.
We're waiting.
Okay.
Exactly.
Come on,
we're waiting
preach.
up to the north.
Okay,
so
preach, brother, preach.
They're throwing bombs. They bomb it. They go back. Okay, on the way back, it was fine, but we didn't destroy the airfield. We didn't do all the stuff that we want. So we needed, they're radioing us back while they're flying back to the carriers. Hey, we got to send another one. We got to send another attack force. Cool. So why that matters is that they're putting land bombs onto the planes, and this actually matters a lot.
Yeah.
So they're putting land bombs on all their planes
because
right?
bombs don't sink ships.
Exactly.
Torpedoes do.
Exactly. So while they're coming back, their scouts spot us, right? And they say, "Hey, there's ships over here. Like there are ships over."
Was it on purpose?
What?
On purpose?
What do you mean?
The spotting.
Oh yeah, they're doing recon. Yeah. They're doing recon just to make.
No, I'm saying we got spotted on purpose. Was that like?
No.
I was gonna say like because I'm trying to think like in the movie it's like make sure you're seen.
I got confused on a couple of those times too when they were like, "Hey, we want them to see us."
Yeah, I'm not sure. Again, the movie.
I understand why. I just don't know like if this is the time he's talking about.
Strategically.
Okay,
yes.
so they saw us.
They spot us. They report back like, "Hey, there's ships over here. Like there are surface U.S. surface ships." And at first they weren't sure if it's a carrier. Then they got another scout. Like, yeah, it's for sure carriers. Like I see at least one carrier up here to the north. Like this is a big deal. So this is one of the biggest issues that they ran into. The Japanese did. So they're putting land bombs on their planes to bomb Midway. They get a correspondence. Hey, there's ships over here. So now they just took off the torpedoes and put on the land bombs.
Okay.
Now they get a thing that, there's actually ships over here. So he has a decision to make. Like, what do I do? Do I stay the course? Right. Do I switch? And it's Nagumo, ends up switching back to torpedoes. So if you imagine this, right? You just took torpedoes off, put on bombs. And now you're taking the bombs off and put on torpedoes. So and the reason that matters is because they didn't store these things correctly. Because they were so fast, it was so hectic, they just took off the bombs and just threw them. They didn't like disarm them. They didn't put them on the wall.
Yeah.
They didn't store them correctly. That's a major thing that comes back.
They don't talk about that, which makes a lot of sense.
Yes,
but they don't talk about it in the movie.
Yes, 100%. And
like one of the guys like, this place is a floating bomb.
They gloss over it.
I
love how you're filling in the gap though, because
yes.
I didn't pick up on why they were switching them out.
Also, there's three things going on at once. The air party's coming back, right? They have to land. They're going to run out of fuel, right? Obviously, they can't go forever. They have
the Japanese air party.
Yes. They're the ones that just struck the
right.
Midway. They also have a defensive force flying around just for defense. And so they have to do all these things at once. They're trying to redo the bombs. They have to land the planes. They have to land multiple planes. They can't. So all this stuff is happening at once, right? So he ends up doing, because he could have sent the ones that he had off, right? Half of the force, he could have sent it off and then landed. But he decided not to do that. He decided to land everything, rearm everything, and then send it out, which is a big decision that people argue over if that's the right call.
This is hella time. Just
you're
literally just circling, waiting for your turn.
For sure. So while this is happening, then our first attack comes. Our first hit, right, with our garbage old torpedo planes.
So you did the research.
Mm-hmm.
Torpedo, they talk shit on the torpedoes in the movie. They actually did suck. From a plane, they sucked.
Hours were terrible.
However, from a submarine, were they good?
I mean,
you don't know, man.
I don't know that.
But from a plane, they were not good.
Ours were awful. They were outdated.
I will never forget the thing the guy hit the plane and it hit and Murphy goes, "What was that?" I'm like, that's the point. They're talking trash on each other. I have bombs, you have torpedoes.
Are you talking about the aircraft carrying the torpedo? Or the torpedo, or both?
The airplanes. Okay. The airplanes would drop them.
Yeah, because there was two different types of aircraft that they were using.
Correct.
The ones carrying the torpedo
bombers, yes,
were different than they were called the SB or the Douglas SB Dauntless, were the divers.
So these, you're right. The torpedoes were called what again? You said the Dauntless.
The Douglas Dauntless.
Okay, so those were old, outdated.
Those are the good ones. The
sorry.
divers.
What
the
are
divers were the Dauntless.
What are the ones?
The terrible ones, I don't know what those ones were. I think they were also a Douglas model.
I wrote it down. I thought
In the movie, they talked about Dauntless.
the Devastator.
Because McCluskey had to get out of a Dauntless to go to something else.
The Devastator. The Devastators were old, outdated.
That's a cooler name than a Dauntless, though.
They even knew that they were probably going to die. Like they knew that their ships, they weren't good enough. They had to get down to 90 miles an hour.
The torpedo guys?
Those torpedo guys. 90 miles an hour, which is extremely slow.
Yeah.
They also had to get to only 100 feet above the water. And you see this in the movie, right? They get super low to the water because they had to come at the angle that they needed. If it was too steep, it would just go straight down to the water and it wouldn't do anything. So they had to get super low. They let them go, and then it hits. And that's the thing I said that those torpedoes would not work 90% of the time. It would be a dud.
Who sent
90%. Like that shows you like our naval technology at the time, they were destroying us as far as like their planes, their torpedo bombs were better. Their fighters were the Zero fighter. You ever talked to that? The Zero fighter is like that famous fighter that they used.
Yeah.
But yeah, it shows you in the movie, right? They hit it, hits direct hit. The whole like the Japanese like brace for impact, and it's nothing. 100% accurate. Those first squads got wiped out.
And the difference between the two, so the Devastator, like they're going 90 miles an hour. The Dauntless dive bomber was coming down at speeds of close to 300 miles an hour.
Yeah.
Can you imagine the difference in that? Like
For
that's,
sure.
I mean,
that's Dick Best, you mean? And
Yep.
That's
Yep.
his airplane?
And that one had a special flaps on it. You see how it looked like a cheese grater or whatever?
Yeah, dude.
They had that would flip up to control their dive. Mm-hmm. Right. So they had more stability and movement while they're diving, because otherwise you're just drop sticking it.
Yeah.
And then when those came up, you're able to still go at the same speed and everything, but you're able to have better momentum.
Yeah. So yeah.
I like how you're doing this right here.
I was moving. I was moving and talking at the same time.
I like that.
So those, and then there's another couple. The first couple are torpedoes. They don't do anything. They do zero
That was
damage.
such a letdown, dude.
Yeah.
That thing just tapped it like a ball peen hammer.
Dude,
Just boop.
they do zero damage. They do zero damage and heavy American losses. Heavy on those first couple of ones. So meanwhile, and also the next thing that happened is we were so disorganized. We sent people off, like from the Hornet ship, we sent people off. It's called the flight to nowhere. They went in the wrong direction, and they just flew in the wrong direction until they ran out of fuel, or they went as far as they can go, and they turned back. Literally didn't participate at all.
Why?
They went in the wrong direction. They had the wrong intel. They had the wrong. That
was the whole bilateral thing in the movie.
It was just
we're guessing 433 or 133, and
they just went out to nowhere, and the coordination between the decks was also bad. So between the flight decks of the crew, they weren't in communication. So they sent them off piecemeal, like one at a time. Instead of having like a full force of like 50, it was like 10, 16, right? So instead of hitting him with a huge force, you hit him piecemeal. That's why these were getting like eliminated.
What?
100%. Like we were not coordinated.
I thought we were like
which
the
was
best
not
at
good because we
everything.
were
not at the time. We were the 17th biggest military in the world. We were not a powerhouse that we are today at the time,
And
especially in this
and especially our naval force too, because Japan outnumbered us, and you may have all the numbers there, but Japan outnumbered us in terms of ships and carriers. They had like 11 carriers. We had 6. It was a new type of warfare in World War II.
Yep.
It was in World War I had air carriers, but it was nothing like this. They weren't really utilized much for like
We
battle.
had Army planes on air carriers.
And this one, yeah. So this is the first time they were used. And most of them, that's why they talk about when they lose them or whatever, when they go down, because we could make them at a clip of around 2 years. It would take us to make one of them. And
One of an air carrier?
One air carrier. And at that time, it was a $30 million per air carrier, 1942. Today's air carrier that we produce is like, I think it was $31 billion for an air carrier today.
Jeez.
And they run off nuclear. I mean, these things are massive, resources, costs, all these things. So one of them goes down.
It's a big deal.
Then and now. I mean, it's a major deal. And Japan took 3 years to build theirs, just one of them. So their losses
were bigger.
And the resources fuel all the things that they talk about that they lack thereof.
So, and remember, so again, it's a good time to talk about this Japanese Zero fighter was elite compared to our fighter. Our fighter was the Wildcat, right? So this Zero is made by Mitsubishi. right? They still.
So hold on, time out.
Yep.
I didn't
So
know
they
that.
had,
That's cool.
Yeah.
they had like, how many fighters did we have on board versus bombers? Because like in the movie, the bombers are basically fighters compared to like anywhere else in the world. Because like they drop a bomb and then now they gotta evade. Versus like in Europe, they're like 40,000 feet above whatever. The huge ass tank, they drop it and they just turn back.
Yeah.
But like they showed like Dick Best is like he's like dropping a bomb, but he's also like evading like Maverick.
Yeah.
You know, so it's essentially like a fighter. Like it's like a
small bomber,
a slow fat fighter
Yeah.
versus other fighters. But like we had other fighters like fighting those guys
For sure. So
tell me this. Tell me
so
this.
our main fighter aircraft was the Grumman F-4F Wildcat. That was the main fighter planes, right? It doesn't have bombs. This has front mounted machine guns, a gunner. These are faster, more mobile. They escort the bombers because the bombers do the damage, right?
Right.
Fighters aren't going to do damage to a ship,
Right.
But they're not going to be able to survive. They're not going to be able to get there.
They're going to
by
intercept
themselves.
everything else.
Yes.
Right.
So the Zero was like crazy maneuverable. It was about 80 miles an hour faster than our Wildcat. It could climb faster, and it was extremely more maneuverable. But it was like a glass cannon, right? It didn't have like fuel, like self healing fuel tanks like ours did. So if your fuel tank got hit, it would like there's like rubber inside of it that would like hold it in.
Wait, what?
Theirs didn't have that.
We had that shit like a basketball.
It was like a rubber. It's like multiple layers of pouches within the tank. So if it got pierced, it wouldn't just blow up or leak.
That's so gangster, dude.
But
We're so cool.
But the Zero didn't have that. They didn't have as much
Obviously
armor.
not.
They didn't have as much armor. They didn't have as much protection for the pilot. But they were extremely maneuverable. They were so fast.
But because
fast
they
and
don't
furious.
care about their human beings in the plane.
And also the pilots were absolutely elite. In this, the Japanese pilots had like hundreds and hundreds of hours of flight experience, where our guys in this battle did not.
Yeah.
Tens of hours.
I thought they did a
Right.
good job
So-
of depicting that.
Absolutely elite fighter pilots that Japan had.
Really?
Yes.
They also, I don't know what our numbers were.
I had no idea that was true.
Like
Yeah.
Dave said, ours were getting shot down left and right because of our disorganization. They did talk about the carriers that were bringing to Japan. They had upwards of like 250 to 300 fighters
Yeah.
on all of their carriers that were in the ocean at the time.
It was for sure not mentioned in the movie. I just didn't know if you had
It wasn't. So I did look it up. It wasn't like crazy different, but the organization was a big difference. Like for example, they were able to launch 108 planes in 7 minutes. It took us over an hour to do that. So
That's
stuff like that.
interesting.
Like they were just more coordinated. They had all this stuff together. So anyway, we finally sent up our bombers, right? So McCluskey, who's like the general or the commander or whatever, with Dick Best.
Is McCluskey the? Oh no.
He's
okay.
Dick Best.
He's the guy.
the
He's the guy who's
superior.
actually flying.
Nope.
Yeah.
I'm with you. Let's go.
Yeah, he's
Let's
actually
go.
flying. Remember,
I'm
they
with
fly
you.
off and they don't find anybody.
Right.
That's right. They go in
Right.
the wrong direction. McCluskey, with the just instinct again, if he turns south, he misses everything. He's out of the battle. But he ends up turning north and finds it. So he ends up going around it. At the same time, we have a York from the Yorktown, and they end up purely by chance arriving on the Japanese fleet at the exact same time on both sides of the fleet, completely by chance. It was not planned. Right?
Oh my God.
Same thing, right?
Divine intervention.
I mean, how? Right? It was perfect. And once they get there, they sink 3 Japanese carriers in 5 minutes, completely decimate their army or their fleet, their main carriers in 5 minutes, destroy 3 of them. So again, kind of.
I do love when they show the Japanese guy getting back to his carrier and he's like he's flying.
It's really sad.
It's like on fire. It's
Yeah.
like yes, right, bro.
Dude,
Where you gonna go?
Yeah.
Nowhere.
to Dave's
Where you
point,
going?
they sank 3. They ended up sinking 4 total
Yes, later.
within this battle. All
All
4 of them that they sank were involved with bombing
Harbor.
Pearl Harbor. Let's go, America.
So like
We're back. We're back on the board.
Yeah.
We're back on the board, baby.
Yeah. So McCluskey and Dick Best, they got the big squadron, right? They have like 30 guys, 30 planes.
Yeah.
And McCluskey's like, all right, we're gonna split up. Like but there's again another miscommunication. All 30
Right.
end up going for 1.
Yeah.
Right? But it was again Best notices this. He notices that like we can't do this. He goes off by himself. He takes him and his 2 wingmen off. So the other ones go after the one and blow it up, like 4 or 5 hits, murder it. They
Swiss cheese.
Best goes over the Akagi, which is the flagship, and his wingman miss. He drops one bomb, right in the middle of it. And back to earlier, because there was fueled jet craft, there was armed munitions in the hangars, it caused a chain reaction, and that one bomb blew the entire flagship up.
Dude, can we also talk about...
Dude,
so again,
America,
so
dude.
again, that's best. Again, I'm glad he deserved to be the main character because he was like really pivotal.
Can we also talk about, I think, one of the best movie scenes ever when they're dive bombing to bomb those things?
Yes.
I could rewatch that every day. Okay. Like, it was so crazy to me that there's these dudes basically in this machine. Picture yourself, they're like going down a roller coaster essentially, right? They're going straight on into somebody shooting a bullet as big as my arm. No joke. At your machine coming down at 300 miles an hour, and they're just 1,200 feet, 800 feet. And there's this explosions and stuff going off on them, and then they just drop. Like, can you imagine, dude? Like,
no,
I picture that.
I can't.
I picture that like the gates of hell. Like, if you opened up the gates of hell, that's what it looked like, dude. You're in a cockpit.
Well, gates of hell.
Japan is shooting.
Dude,
bullets the size of my arm at you.
We throw around use the term built different. Like, I'm built different. These men were built different.
That's the other part that blows my mind about them is because if they go down there, because we've seen all kinds of other aerial movies where they have combat and stuff. They go down there, they're in the middle of the ocean.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. And their best chance, they're lucky if they get picked up by the enemy because maybe they capture you and keep you alive. Or you get eaten by sharks or drown or die of dehydration.
They have like a life jacket. There are stories of people parachuting and Japanese fighters like murdering.
Yeah.
Like you're floating and they just
because the other guys in combat, in Germany and Europe and everywhere, they go down and they get to land on land. These people are going down the Pacific.
Early on, they allude to it. It's like, we need our fighters to not be glory hunting. Because you see these people falling, and they're just strafing instead of hitting actual targets like a battleship.
The Japanese say that, don't they? I think the Japanese says that.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It's like we're trophy hunting.
I got a point on that later.
Yeah. So anyway, 5 minutes we destroyed 3 carriers. So the complete battleships, right?
And for real, real time,
absolutely,
live, 5 minutes.
5 minutes because of that simultaneous. Where I said they arrived at the same time. 5 minutes, 3 carriers are out of commission. And so now the score was 4-3, kind of 4 because we had 3 characters, but we had
carriers,
3 carriers, but we also had Midway, which is kind of like an unsinkable carrier, right? Like it's kind of like a carrier also. So 3 carriers to 4. Now it's 3-1, right? It's 3-1 now. It completely shifts it. Mm-hmm. Obviously, they have battleships and cruisers, things like that. They can also do damage, submarines, but the carriers are the big jewel, right? Like being able to launch planes and keep planes is huge. So we go back, and another thing in Japanese, he could have just left. That last one, the hero could have just left and just been like, we're lost. We've lost. Go. But again, Japanese culture, they don't surrender. And especially at this time, they do not surrender.
Thank you.
They are that's a big deal. So
hold on, time out before you get to all this. Are we thinking about submarines at all?
They're
the picket line, all that stuff.
So there's submarines in this movie. They don't do a whole lot. I feel.
No, I know, but they did. I feel like in the movies, not just, but they did do a lot
for sure. In this battle, they weren't major. They weren't super pivotal until the end of it. But they weren't.
That one was super random when that one showed up in the movie.
Yeah.
You're like,
it's like what?
Well, okay, they're here and they missed, and then they're gone.
I think the reason they put that in there is to show that there was other things going on.
Yeah, sure.
Is that a submarine in the middle of our fleet? All this stuff. Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
that's what we do.
Mm-hmm.
It was American propaganda.
Yeah, there you go.
So so if there wasn't that bit pivotal.
Hey, you want to hear propaganda about this movie?
Go ahead.
So
hold on. Do I want to hear it right now or do I hear it later?
We'll throw it right now.
Okay,
hit it.
So a lot of these movies, the big box office movies, in order to bump up their worldwide money or whatever they get, there's only a certain amount of movies that they can release a year in China that are from outside of China. And this was one of them that China approved. Right?
Oh yeah, they don't like Japan. They don't like
China
Japanese.
was like, hell yeah,
They
dude.
do not like Japanese.
Part of that stipulation, if you notice, and it's a weird, like, doesn't have a lot of context to the movie, is when Doolittle, when they crash and they land in China or whatever, the bombers that hit Tokyo.
Yep.
And then the Chinese help them, and you're like, "Oh, this is crazy." They're like bombing them and stuff. So like, we're gonna go back and forth with Doolittle, see how he's doing or whatever. See us guys. It's like, nope, they're just bombing. And we're never gonna see him again.
That's
and you're
it.
like, okay, that was weird. And then I didn't really
weird.
think much of it until I watched a video, and they're like, "Yeah, they threw that in because China wanted to." China approved to see this movie because we specifically talked about how horrible the Japan was to the Chinese during that time.
Yeah,
And
250,000 people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I thought that was kind of
Villagers.
interesting. It made a lot more sense.
Villagers, dude.
Dude, that number, when I saw it at the end, I was like, good night, bro.
For sure. So yeah, I do want to talk about that. I just want to finish the battle here. So he goes, the hero goes, and they try to attack our ships a couple times, and then we end up sinking it. Best goes out. Best goes again, goes back out, and
Best
finishes
dick.
the last.
One of only 4 ever to do it.
Crazy. So I think this is a good time to talk about the Yorktown specifically. So the USS Yorktown was one of the battleships, right? We talked about that before. We had the Enterprise, the Hornet, and the Yorktown.
It's a carrier?
Aircraft carrier. Okay. Yes, an aircraft carrier. So it starts back before the Battle of Midway. So back before the Battle of Midway, there was a battle at Coral Sea. It was in the sea down by Australia area. Yes, exactly. In the movie, they coming back to it. They come to the battle, and it's over. They don't show the battle, but they show the Yorktown like destroyed, essentially, like not completely destroyed, but like severely damaged, right? So the Yorktown limps back, trailing oil the whole way to Pearl Harbor. They say, like, all right, they look at it like, all right, it's going to take about 3 weeks, or 3 months rather, 3 months to get this thing back operational. So now, post the main part of the battle, 3 of the battleships have been sunk at this point for the Japan side. There's 1 left. The one comes after us, and they send some planes out to attack, and they come across the Yorktown like it's by itself. They bomb it. They leave it, like the pilots, like multiple hits with their torpedoes and bombs. They leave it like it's dead in the water, and that just means it can't move. Yeah, they report back on the way back. We basically put a carrier out of operation, right? Multiple fires, smoke flying, dead in the water. Great. So an hour or so later, they send out another one, because now in the scorecard of the Japanese, right, it started out 4-3, right? We sunk 3 of theirs, so now it's 1-3.
Yeah.
But then now they sunk 1 of ours, so it's 1-2, right? So they send another one out. It's like, okay, like we're getting close. We're like, if we can sink 1 more, now we're like, we can maybe turn this around, right?
Yeah.
So they send another one out. The plane's coming. They come across a carrier. No smoke, no signs of damage, moving in the water, and they attack it, right? They attack it, blow it up. This same thing. Fires everywhere, all this good stuff. Go back. But when they land, they get reports that actually the ship that they attacked the second time was the Yorktown again. So they thought they'd sunk it the first time, but the American damage control was able to get it back operational in less than an hour, so that when they came back for the second attack, they thought it looked like it's not smoking, it's not on fire, it's moving.
Wow.
It can't be the same. It can't be the same carrier. There's no way.
Yeah.
So they bomb it again, right? And they disable it again. So they get back. They're like,
we are the best at war.
These pilots are like, we sunk 2 ships. We're back in this.
Yeah.
But in fact, they hadn't even sunk 1.
Dude,
right?
I had no idea about
They
that. That's
didn't even
crazy.
sink 1. They didn't even sink 1. Right, and during this time, again, they could have been gone. This battleship could have been gone. Right, back to Japan, retreated, but they decided to attack twice. Well, after they were like, okay, two attacks, that's good. We're gonna rest, refuel. Right, these pilots have been flying for 10 hours, some of them, like all day long. The Japanese pilots. We're gonna rest, refuel, and we'll go back out, later tonight. Well, they never got a chance. Dick Best shows up, blows up the final
chitty bang bang.
DB.
Exactly. Blows up the final carrier. So this Yorktown, like, again, this is like what we really had as advantage is our industry is amazing. First of all, we were able to repair the Yorktown in 72 hours. We were able to repair it again in battle, enough to make it look good enough that they thought it was another one. right? Because if it was still smoking, they would have kept going and maybe hit another carrier.
Yeah.
Right, like that's a big deal that we were able to like get it back that fast.
So is this the point when the Japanese choose to retreat? Yeah. And then we choose to actually pull back. Well, we pulled back.
Yeah, they had 4 carriers. So Nagumo, who's like the main guy in the battle, decides to go down with the ship and does that in the movie. The admiral Yamamoto, with his battleships, he has no more carriers now. But his battleships like we can still do some stuff. He goes a little bit further and decides not to and goes back.
Yeah.
But the Yorktown does finally sink. It does actually sink. They're trying to tow it, so they can't move anymore. They can't get the boilers are destroyed now. They can't. So they try to tow it back to Pearl Harbor, but then a Japanese submarine, hits it and sinks
this thing's
it.
just getting picked apart, dude.
Yeah, it actually does.
Like a carcass out in the middle of a country road, dude.
But dude, this thing battles. Battled through multiple fights. Dude, played an integral role.
That was tight, man. I didn't know all that.
Yeah. So like the crazy, it's so wild, like that they had to without the damage control. Again, these are like the unsung heroes, right?
Yeah.
These aren't the guys in the planes like winning the glory, right? These are the guys on the deck, below deck, putting out fires, repairing things, getting electricity back going, the boilers working, like unsung heroes. If they didn't do that, like who knows? The whole battle could have been these little pieces. Everybody played a role. I made this like.
You know what one of the things I thought was interesting was when they talked about when they went to go bomb bomb Tokyo.
Yes.
With Doolittle's team, and like they knew it wasn't like any catastrophic blow or anything like that. They was like, hey, we're just gonna throw a haymaker just to hit him.
Yes.
But that actually, how big of an effect that was for Japan, which actually pushed them to even enter into all these battles in the first place. Yeah. Because you see in the movie, and that was true too, where they were kind of fighting with the army on, hey, dude, we're not going to send all this stuff over here to Midway. Like, we still need all these ships and everything for troop transport and all these other operations that we have going on.
Right.
And then we hit Tokyo.
It's your job to get us there.
Yeah. Then we see they hit Tokyo, and they're like, all right, dude, whatever you needed for your battle plans, send it everything. Because that's what pushed everybody to have the opportunities for us to sink all these ships.
They had to take the emperor and put him in a bunker.
Yeah,
like he was like in like the bombs were dropping. He did it, and that was extremely shameful. Like that really hit them where it hurts. Like,
so I didn't.
The emperor's like a god.
Yeah,
like it's more like a deity figure.
But I didn't know until watching it that I knew we hit Tokyo. I was like, yeah, cool. We hit him back once or whatever. I didn't know that it actually played such a huge role in this battle itself.
Yeah.
So knowing what you know, would you rather be in Europe fighting like at Bastogne or anyone else?
Battle of the Bulge, yeah.
Or the Pacific Theater?
Oh my gosh.
What are you picking?
Probably in Germany. I don't want to be on I have no desire to be on an aircraft carrier or in a plane over water.
Give me Pacific.
Yeah.
Give me the Pacific.
There's some hard battles, dude. Like after this, the Battle of Iwo Jima was another battle after this. That was a hell. 36-day battle on this little island.
That's fine.
Yeah. I mean, it was intense fighting there.
So what did you read about because of our victory, how it helped us in the war effort?
I mean, basically, so it crippled. They could not crank out, like you said, carriers like we could. Like our industry was way bigger, right? Before this, they had free reign in like those like the Philippines, Indonesia, all that like closer down to Australia. They had free reign to do whatever they wanted. Nobody could stop them over there. Nobody could stop them. They were taking island after base after this, and with sinking of 4 carriers, I think they had 6 big ones, and they had some smaller ones. So now they're down to 2. I mean, huge blow.
Yeah.
They could no longer go on the offensive at all. So the rest of the war, they had no more like significant offensive campaigns. They were completely on the back foot now, and we were pushing our advantage because we still had the numbers advantage already, right? We had 2, and we had more coming because we were cranking them out again because our industry, and Japan knew that. They knew they couldn't fight a long war with us.
Yeah.
Right. They wanted to take us out early.
That's what he said. He literally said that.
Yep,
yeah, because there was at the start of the war, we had like 6 carriers, right? And we lost
a couple.
We lost a couple in the Midway, and then at the end of World War II, we had 11 total.
Yes.
So, yeah, we were spitting them out.
Cranking
we were
them
like,
out,
hey,
dude.
if these things go down, here comes another one.
Yes, we were cranking
because
them.
How important they are in the war effort.
This battle shows that we weren't the smartest necessarily, like with our strategy and tactics. Like we kind of got lucky. We kind of like messed up a lot of things, but you cannot doubt our heart. And like that was like
our resolve,
our heart and bravery. And to be fair, the Japanese also were very, very brave.
So,
and like they had absolutely
yeah,
had
but also terrible people.
Well, the soldiers aren't necessarily terrible. Necessarily, like they're fighting for their country.
No, I agree.
You know what I mean?
I thought the movie.
However, Japan did some terrible things.
Yes.
Yeah, we also bombed them and killed them with an atomic bomb
because of the terrible.
Yeah,
things
because they just
doing.
wouldn't give up. They wouldn't quit. But I thought the film did a really good job, and they talk about it at the end. It didn't really dawn on me until afterwards when they pay homage to the U.S. and the Japanese military men who fought and died in these battles or whatever. I thought that was pretty cool how they honor both. And if you go back and watch it or rethink of what happened during the movie,
I was kind of mad about that. I'll be honest.
No, man, I thought it was cool because I thought that they didn't make the Americans evil. They didn't make Japan evil in this. It was just, hey, here are two military mites fighting up against each other, and this is pure strategy. This is pure will. This is pure bravery and courage. Let's see what it looks like, right? There was no like, hey, we're gonna evil will overdo or overgood. It was just.
That's why I got upset. Is because of that.
Yeah.
Like,
well,
dude,
yeah. When they attacked Pearl Harbor, that was trash.
We won. You lost.
Yeah. So
like anyone else in the sky.
So the actual movie
done.
itself,
Yeah.
Dave.
So this is where this was very difficult for me to rate this because
he's gonna give it a 9.7 or 9.8.
It opened up. It opened up like an awesome like history and all this stuff that I was like super interested in, right? But the movie itself, without watching anything else, without reading about it, anything else, was just okay, right? Again, without extra stuff, I didn't know what was going on. It was really hard to tell what was happening.
Yeah.
Like I you can say like, oh, that's their ship blowing up, that's our ship blowing up, but like, who is that? I can't tell. They all have the same little hat on. They all look the same to me. They're all almost the same.
Yeah.
Like who? Like why do I care? It was hard to care about people. Like there's nobody really cared about individually on a personal level.
Can't latch on to anyone.
Yeah, it was just all nondescript fighters, which is fine. But like it didn't like as a movie, but of itself, it just didn't like really grab me.
Not a fan of
So
this.
they did a lot of comparisons between. I'm with Dave where the actual fighting scenes and stuff like that were incredible. Like the action scenes, the depictions of like what that would really be like to be in that were amazing. The actual movie itself, in terms of the plot, the character development, the dialogue between some of the characters and stuff was kind of corny and forced and stuff at times. That part of it was bad.
Yeah.
The acting and everything else was good. I just don't think that they were giving the best
So
script.
what's your rating?
Because also Bjorn, Bjorn Ironhand. Who was that?
Iron Hand.
Or Ironside. Who was that? Like at the beginning they show you him.
Yeah.
I have no idea who this is. But then you learn later that he was the roommate of Dick Best at the academy later.
It
stuff
just
like
jumps
that.
all around. You're like, what is going on here?
The thing about China, like, I don't think that was necessary. They could have completely cut that. Again, they did it for a certain reason.
Yeah.
But they could completely cut that. It wasn't necessary to this battle. Again, like, they did a whole scene with, like, their wives and, like, they're at a dance or, like, a gala. It just, a lot of that stuff did not really fit. But, like, I'll give you credit for this.
On the edge of my seat, dude. What's the score?
Yeah, the history was great. All that was great. My score is 6.7.
6.7?
Yeah, 6.7.
Wow.
Like again, like I enjoyed watching the documentaries that I watched later about Midway more than the actual.
What did Black Hawk Down get?
Black Hawk Down got a 7.2. I think Black Hawk Down was a little bit better of a movie, even though it wasn't as interesting to me as far as like the setting.
Yeah.
I think the movie was better.
I'll give that this movie was hard because there's so many different things going on, right?
Sure. That's true.
Wah, wah, wah.
You just fell in love with the action stuff. Man.
I love it all.
Which
dude.
I did too. But the rest of it, I'm
America for the win.
I'm like, what is going on in this? And
What's
who are
going
these
on?
people? Where are they at? And why
Where
are
are
they
they?
bombing
What are they
here?
doing?
And
I
Yeah, for sure. So there's a couple of things I want to talk about. So like, remember I said the Zero fighter was like outclassed us. If a Wildcat and a Zero, they're going head to head, we're losing.
Yeah.
However, Lieutenant Commander Jimmy Thatch was one of our fighters.
Thatcher.
He came up with a thing called the Thatch maneuver, which essentially, the Thatch weave.
Oh.
The Thatch weave.
A little bit of an ego there. He had to put his name on it, but that's
the
fine.
Thatch weave. So it was basically an anti-Zero maneuver. So you had two guys flying. When one of them would get tailed by a Zero, they would weave in and out. So the Zero chasing the one would come into the firing range of the other one. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So when they would weave,
Tail gunner wise.
well, they would come like this. So if I'm getting trailed by a Zero, my wingman, now that we're coming like this, has a perfect shot at him.
Oh yeah.
Right? So that's when they implemented that strategy, it was very effective against Zeros because they're glass cannons, right? If you hit them, the pilots are going to get damaged, the planes are going to get damaged, and that was once they started doing that maneuver, working together in that dogfighting pattern, it like made them much more effective, even though like it was we had an inferior dogfighting fighter.
And you guys else have the takeaway of they're in those planes and they're like, oh, we got someone in our tail. Dude just hits his chair, turns around, and then he's just shooting around the tail of his aircraft, dude. Like, that was one
That's
bad
true.
shot, and he shoots his own plane down.
That's true.
Okay, so
That's insane.
I'm glad you said that because
I'm like,
I thought to myself, I would be an amazing tail gunner until I mow the tail down, dude. Like I'm not stopping like these guys.
Or your
are
allies.
stopping.
Or your allies.
And how easy would that would have been? Like you're flying around at several hundred miles an hour.
I want to know how
going
often it
crazy.
happened.
Bullets are coming. A
It had
bullet
to
could
have
hit your
happened.
shoulder. You're like, oh crap! There goes my tail.
It had to have happened.
Yeah, it had to have. They also had like they had to open up their canopies. Like when they're flying, they're open.
Yeah.
It's because I looked it up. I'm like, why would they do that? It's because they would fog. They'd have ventilation. They would fog up like you're in your freaking car in the wintertime.
Yeah.
And they couldn't see anything. So they had to open that beast up to freaking fight.
I was wondering, they're like, hey, dude, here come some people. Let's take the
Take it
sunroof
off.
down.
Like, what?
Dude. Let's take
They
the
had to.
sunroof
They
down.
couldn't
I'm ready to rip this guy.
Yeah, they couldn't
Wild.
see. The last thing I want to say, Japan somehow escaped historical scrutiny, and it's completely ridiculous to me. They did absolutely atrocious things during and right before World War II.
Preach,
And
brother, preach.
They get none of the international scorn that Germany did. Germany is like hated. The Nazis are the most evil people that ever lived, no questions about it. And maybe that's true. But Japan, nobody thinks of them that way. Nobody. And they did terrible things, right? We dropped a bomb on them, of course, killed about 210,000 people were killed by the A-bomb, okay? Yeah. They killed more Chinese people than that. Right?
Yeah.
Massacre them by hand. Before
Rape,
World War
pillage,
II,
murder, dude.
I'm glad you mentioned that one R
Literally.
word.
The R word.
We'll
edit that later.
Before the World War II started officially, well, some people, it's debated, but they had a war with China right before. It's called the R word of Nanking, or the Nanking Massacre.
Yep.
They killed 300,000 people in 6 days. They R-worded 80,000 women, right? Okay, so like they don't get to play the victim that they got a bomb dropped on them, which again, a lot of people, but they don't get to play the victim when in those two events alone, 500,000, they doubled what we killed in that.
Yeah.
Don't tell me twice, bro.
And we dropped a bomb and gave them multiple warnings this was happening.
Again, I'm not sure.
They rolled through and
they do not get. They had the Nazi scientists, that are like infamous. They had the same thing. They had the same kind of scientists that were doing the same kind of things.
And they were the superior people.
They
in
believe
that
that they're
region.
superior.
Right. Yes.
Absolutely. They should get way more scorn than they do for the history. Also, Germany has completely owned up to it. They have. I apologize to the world. They've made amends. They like banned swastikas.
They're on a world trial.
100%.
Everybody watched
They
it.
completely admit it and have been trying to make amends ever since.
Japan
denies it.
Never.
There is nothing like that. Most people deny it. It's not taught in schools. It's it's crazy to me that Japan escaped this. They did this terrible, horrible thing, and they kind of just we're gonna forget about that, right? It's crazy. Like they deserve. Again, obviously the people today aren't the same people as then. But
do you blame them though? I can't blame them, but it's wild.
I can blame them, absolutely. They had this thing called comfort women. Have you heard about this?
No.
So this is basically slavery of that type. You can imagine what type of slavery it was.
Okay.
Of people they would capture mainly from Korea, hundreds of thousands, and they would set up these brothels essentially next to that followed their troops advancing, and these women would just service the soldiers 8 hours a day, back to back to back to back to back.
Jeez.
For years, for 10 plus years.
What?
I'm telling you, the Japanese did some crazy things, and nobody knows about it. And nobody knows about it.
I knew about the first one you talked
Yes.
about, but not some of the other stuff you're filling me in on.
Again, and I guess we had to drop the A-bomb on them, so now they get to say, oh, everything else we did was erased.
Okay. Yeah.
But it's like, no, you did some terrible things,
Yeah.
right? If Germans still get jokes about that, they still get hate for the World War II today, right? And Japan completely dodged it, and it's just wild. It's just wild to me. It's important to know that they were on par.
Japan sucks.
No,
they're one of our strongest allies.
No, now, but I'm saying
they are.
it's not fair. It's not fair to condemn Germany. It was condemned so hard, and they were able to dodge it. And
also,
I just don't think that's.
It's
fair.
also hard because Germany did it at such more of a mass. It's hard. I get what you're saying, but it's also what Germany did into the scale.
it was
they created a manufacturing
For sure.
To kill people. So
This
it's hard to be like, oh well, they did bad stuff too, but it was a fraction of what Germany did, and Germany had a manufacturing side.
No,
of
you're for sure,
death.
but they still had.
They did the old school way.
They still killed a lot of people. For another, they had POWs, right? Or people that they conquered. They would line them up. There's stories of them lining them up, 100 people in a row, and 2 people would compete on who can decapitate all 100 first, like a sport. Again, these is atrocities. Again, I'm not. The Nazis were probably still worse. They're probably still worse.
Yeah.
I'm not. It's not. But I'm saying
But everybody else had a code of conduct.
This is the type of war we were fighting.
Yeah, this is the people that we were fighting against.
All right, I'm back on
right?
Colin's side
So,
about Japan. I'm back.
Yeah,
Hey,
again.
you're welcome, brother.
I know, but the A-bomb is the people debate it, but estimates say that if we invaded, because they weren't going to surrender, if we invaded them, it would have been millions of deaths on the Japanese side and millions of deaths on our side. Instead, how it was 210,000 deaths on their side only. You know what I mean?
And
those
math.
Those numbers if those estimates are right, these are estimates, of course, because it's not alternate history. It's alternate history.
Right.
But to me, again, it's never great. But what are you gonna do against somebody who's not gonna surrender and is committing these kind of atrocities? What are you gonna do? I don't know. So anyway,
That's
Midway.
our mid.
I love it. I'm very sad you give it a 6.7. I was thinking 8.2.
the movie's a 6.7. The battle's a 10 out of 10.
Yes. Yes, I agree.
All right.
Good choice,
I don't
though.
like what you did there, but
Good
I'll
choice.
allow it.
All right.
I'll allow it.
Anyway, that's a long movie review, but it's a movie and a war review. So it's 2 in 1.
There's a 2-in-1.
I love war. Thank you, Dave. I love it all.
Any true events are hard to do a movie reviews on because you got to do both.